Hey man, interesting couple of days in the playoffs, right? And you think about it, the Blazers obviously upset the Houston Rockets in Houston, but they weren't the only upsets this weekend.
No, we talked about that on the air, whether or not seeing all these road teams come through, perhaps, I don't know, gave the Blazers a little confidence. I think it's good when you have a young team and some guys like Lillard who were going through their first playoffs. I'm glad the Blazers didn't play their first game like Saturday afternoon, because you got a chance to watch a little bit and see how physical the game is, how it changes, how crowds are different. I don't know, Mike. It felt like because of that, these guys got a little taste of the playoffs before their series actually began.
You know the old axiom that the it is so difficult to win on the road and you have to have home court advantage in the playoffs. First time in history, in the first round, 5 road teams out of the 8 won games. So and I think you do get confidence if you're a young guy like Lillard that's sitting watching on Saturday and he sees some road teams win, the Wizards beating Chicago in Chicago. Those things never happened before, but I think this is a new era. That's, there's more parity in both the East. At the start of the year, it was Indiana and the Heat. Everybody said no one's going to touch them. They're going to go to the finals, and then everyone found out it's a long NBA season.
Well, I think you could argue too that in some ways, and we talked about Portland. If they hadn't lost the game in Houston back in March, they'd have had home court advantage. I think for this team, maybe it was better they didn't.
I agree with you.
Well, 50-50, I said coming in 50-50. That was a chance of winning this series, and I think they upped it. But first of all, Wild One, for those who are listening who don't know, explain what axiom means. I know what it means, but a lot of people may not fully understand
Well, the world is here, and the axiom goes around it.
I mean, other people may, I get it.
Well,
I understand. Mike, I know what it meant, but I'm sure other people may not.
He was going with a mathematical term.
Yeah.
Euclid's axioms and common notions. It's an engineering thing.
The thing is, my Twitter followers, they've come to know that what the hell's he talking about?
it's a common theme.
That's
now.
right.
So what was your favorite game? For me, I liked the Dallas San Antonio game. I thought that watching that game, I heard a lot of people talk about how Dallas is going to beat them. I never felt like San Antonio was anything but in control of that game.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, San Antonio, I've been downplaying them for years. I mean, every year.
Everybody keeps waiting for him to get old.
And Duncan is better today than he was 5 years ago. And I can't believe that. I look at how many years he's been in, how many games they won.
He's thinner than he's ever been.
Yeah.
Yes, he is thinner than.
Smarter than he's ever been.
Yeah.
The only thing that's changed is he doesn't jump as high, maybe he doesn't run as fast, but he doesn't have to be as fast because he knows how to be smarter.
Dallas, he scored 26 points. I mean, he outscored Dirk. So it's, this playoffs and just winning one game for the Blazers.
Right.
This Houston team, I mean, their expectations are so great. They think they're in the finals of the West. They sounded like Indiana at the start of the year.
Yes.
So, this series is not over. They're a prideful team, so it's going to be interesting how it plays out.
But how important, though, man, we talked about this on the air, 80% of teams that win the first game win the series, and that's cool. But how important is when you talk about that first game, you get it on the road, because nobody ever wins 3 in a row in the playoffs, not in a good series.
Right.
So winning that first game really sets the road team up to have a chance to win the series.
Yeah, but and we didn't mention this on the air last night because I thought it'd be kind of a wet blanket.
I know what you're talking about.
Portland beat Phoenix in Game 1 a few years ago and lost that series. Now it was a little different in that case, but Brandon didn't play. Andre hit that big 3, and I still remember going back to the hotel in Phoenix and thinking, man, they got Game 1, and everybody was throwing out those numbers 80% of the time. We were doing the same thing, and then it came crashing back to earth. So I think Blazer fans remember that too, and so you're excited, but hey, a little bit cautious. And LaMarcus and some of those guys and Nick, they were on that team, so they remember that too, and hopefully they're using that time to tell them, hey, we beat Phoenix in Game 1 too.
The good thing about the Blazers not having a lot of depth, but if you look at the schedule, and we're going Sunday, Wednesday, Friday, and there's that if you look at the minutes played last night by the Blazers, the least that the Big Four played was 33 minutes,
Right.
and it went up to 39 minutes, something like 40 minutes. So, they'll have time to rest.
Right.
Otherwise, if we were playing today or something like that, I think they could wear down the Blazers starters, but who knows?
It's interesting when you talk about matchups. I was looking at the Miami game was great, but I thought the Pacers Atlanta Hawks game was an interesting one because the Pacers went out and got Bynum, thinking that was going to help them match up with the Miami Heat in the finals, in the Eastern Conference Finals. But they didn't think about Atlanta and Paul Millsap as a smaller power forward who's going to take you on the perimeter and look to attack the rim. Now they're going to struggle. I think this is not going to be an easy series for them either.
What they didn't think about, it's not Atlanta they didn't think about. They didn't think about chemistry.
Right.
And that is a fragile thing, and you know this from being on teams. It's
Bad teams.
Well, no. When I was with the Blazers, we had a good team until we brought in Rod Strickland.
Well, that's
It wasn't his fault. Not your fault, Rod. I love you, but come on, man. You came in, and we went in the tank after that.
That's right.
But that's what I've heard coaches describe that as chemistry is a tough thing to achieve, and maybe an even tougher thing to maintain. And sometimes you can't figure it out on paper. You throw guys together and you hope they mix. In Indiana, and I'm not saying it's over for him, but the Evan Turner Granger was a great locker room guy.
Yep.
And then you get rid of him, and then you bring in Bynum, and Hibbert's got to be going, what? And some of the other guys maybe took that as disrespect or something. I don't know. But, and a lot of people said, Indiana, they'll get it figured out as soon as the
Atlanta's going to win
start.
that series.
I agree.
They are going to win that series.
Yeah.
And Indiana, and that is going to be a historic collapse if that happens, from where they were so dominant early in the season. If they do end up falling to an 8, after the way they played early in the season looked unbeatable at times, heads are going to roll.
Well,
Do
I'll
you-
tell
do
you,
you blow
that
that
San
team up?
Antonio Dallas series, the both 1-8 series, first time in history, it could be history making.
And how about that matchup with the
got it.
Clippers? Yeah, hang on one second. I'm working.
Wow, they won't believe that.
I don't believe that, and I'm sitting here.
Now, what about the other matchup that I'm looking forward to? Whether there's a bunch, every matchup, but the Memphis matchup. But I really like that Clipper Golden State matchup. If there's any team, and I don't like Golden State, but if there's any team I'd like to see fall more, I think it's the LA Clippers, a team that's done nothing but thinks they deserve more.
Houston kind of does too. They're pretty entitled.
That's a good point.
And you can't figure out that Golden State Clippers series because Blake Griffin played 19 minutes. That's the least amount of minutes he's played the whole year in any game. And that shows you how refereeing is playing such a big part. All of a sudden, refs, these two teams, they don't like each other. That was in the paper.
Right.
They bad blood. So all of a sudden they call it close. And they run the Clippers right out of that game. Without Blake Griffin, that team's not going to win.
No.
And so, fouls and refereeing, because they start with 60 refs in the playoffs. The next round they cut it to 30. They get it down to the finals. They get 12. And the third round is 18. Why not? Well, there's so many games, but I was
That's the
saying,
problem,
why
so many
not
games.
start with 30 and, have well officiated games, because there's some officials that are deciding games now.
Well, foul is a foul, though. I thought in that Clipper game, certainly Blake Griffin, some of that stuff they let go during the regular season, but the bad blood, like you said, the stuff that had been talked about, I think the referees may have officiated some of the stuff that they were anticipating happening, but still a great series. And then, you can't count out the Memphis Grizzlies in Oklahoma City. Obviously, Oklahoma City killed them the other night, but I just have a feeling Memphis will figure some stuff out.
Memphis got back in that game, despite the flurry by the Thunder early on. I think the loss of Calathes hurts them. I think Udrih can come back and be a good guy off the bench, but Calathes kind of had him solidified there in the backcourt. I don't know. I do think they'll win a game or two.
I don't know how you get
win
20 games suspension for an
supplement.
over-the-counter thing.
Yeah,
See, that wasn't explained real well.
It wasn't.
20 games right before the playoffs.
And that's what I think hurt the worst. If you want to make that suspension, you make that suspension the first 20 games of next year.
Yeah.
Because you can't cripple a team 3 days. They don't have any chance to recover. There's no way to do anything. Bring a guy in, any of that kind of stuff. But I tell you, if I'm Oklahoma City, here's a concern of mine. If I'm Oklahoma City, let's say you do get past Memphis, they're going to beat you to death. You know, they're a physical team.
Yeah.
And then who do you face after that? You've got the Clippers or Golden State. They got to be hoping it's Golden State who plays a more free-flowing game.
Yeah.
The Clippers are going to be a bruising team as well. And then if you get past that, San Antonio. I mean, there is
Portland.
or Portland. I was about to say or Portland, but you know that's a tough run for the Oklahoma City Thunder. I don't know if they can get out with that schedule.
I don't know. There's a lot of people who are picking them to win it all, and I'm still staying with Miami. I think the West is going to beat themselves up so bad by the time they get to the finals, and Miami, I think it was going to be a tough series until Al Jefferson got hurt. Now I think they're going to roll over them and be fairly rested.
I go with Miami now. I've always picked Miami the last 2 years.
Picked Indiana this year.
Yeah, and I said Indiana would win because I thought Miami.
That looked like a great
I didn't
pick
like
until
them
about 2 months
and
ago.
I don't like Miami now offensively with Wade, bumping his knee and everything like that. But boy, it's anybody's championship this year. I mean, a team gets hot like the Blazers won that game last night. That could open the door.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And if Thomas Robinson gives you a little what he did last night, the rest of the way, and
the crazy
Freeland
thing is,
comes back.
And I saw Chandler Parsons gave a quote and said we didn't play well and we should have won. Portland could argue other than Aldridge, they didn't play well.
That's the thing that kills me.
Damian and Aldridge did, but the things they do well, they didn't really do well.
That's what
outside
cracks
of
me up
LaMarcus.
is when you see that a guy like that. Well, we almost had a chance to win and we didn't play good basketball. Well, that can be certainly turned the other way. The Blazers played poor basketball
By the
and
way,
won.
give your opponent a little bit of credit, and that's what if Portland is looking for bulletin board stuff, who knows? His full quote on that, I would put on the bulletin board because he didn't give. And there's different things, but him saying, boy, we didn't play well. We still should have won. We got this.
Well, I'll tell you what. I think if they haven't put it on the bulletin board, I'm tweeting it to all the players.
And I'm telling Nick, it was pointed towards him.
Yeah.
Parsons was pointing right to you,
Yeah, he was
Nick,
calling
saying,
you out.
you can't handle
He
me.
insulted your manhood.
You can't handle the truth.
I heard him say something about if it weren't for him, the French would be speaking German.
Yes.
I was like, wow, that's
did
just
hear- I
not.
heard
That is not right.
That's right.
Well,
I
hey,
did
man,
hear that, and we need to
That's
spread that
World
around.
War stuff right there.
Hey, man, we appreciate you. I appreciate you guys taking a couple of minutes to join me and go over the playoffs, and maybe we'll get a chance to do this the next time we're in Houston.
Yeah.
I don't know why not. We're not doing anything. We're just sitting around like this anyway.
I know, right?
Flip
Nothing
the
else to
camera
do.
on.
Could you come up with a dinner from McDonald's or something?
They're a sponsor, so say yes.
Yes. I'll tell you what. When we get back, I'll get you McMuffin.
Yeah.
He's got enough.